Projeni Pather, and I'm the chairperson of AAXO, the Association of African Exhibition Organizers. And today I have the privilege of speaking to Justin Hawes from Scan Display. Now, Justin has been in the industry, in the exhibition industry, since 1996. So that's 24 years since he's been with the exhibition industry. He's also very passionate about being green friendly, and that's why he co-founded the EGF, the Event Greening Forum. He's also part of the International Federation of Exhibition and Event Services, and he sits on the board there. Scan Display has been around for a very long time, and with a total staff complement currently of about 230 staff, it's definitely been trying times for everybody, including Scan. But being in the industry for such a long time, Justin, I think, and being such an astute businessman, I'm sure you have, it must be an interesting moment for you to get to this point in your business career.
Yeah, so Projeni, thanks very much for this opportunity just to share some thoughts. Yes, it is a very interesting part, of a chapter. One wants to writing a book, a different chapter, and it's not the first time. There've been a lot of difficult things that have happened in the past. I remember the dot-com bubble that burst, and our liabilities were way more than our assets in the company. And I also remember with the foreign exchange problems we had, because we were importing a lot of exhibition equipment and the rand devaluing very quickly. That was also quite an issue. And then 2008 was also quite a challenge with the international markets crashing. And then 2010, interesting, after World Cup was also a disaster because no one was doing anything. Everybody did something during World Cup, and then afterwards, for 6 months to a year, nothing happened. So we have been in difficult times. Obviously, this is the more difficult, but I think there has been, and I think it's the nature of any business and anybody in the economy, there's going to be, and in a specific sector, there are going to be ups and downs, and there will be downs and they will be followed up with ups.
Absolutely. Now, currently, tell me a little bit about Scan. I mean, we all hear of Scan, but I think with a staff complement of 230 people, you are definitely getting out there with lots of stuff. So what is your offering to the industry?
Yeah, it's interesting. The name Scan actually, and sometimes people, when they're very angry with us, they call Scan, but the name Scan is actually Scandinavia Display. And it was a product that was actually started in Scandinavia. And that's why it was called Scan Display. And it was a worldwide network of distributors that were selling pop-ups, the old, pop-up system. So, and we adopted the name. We were one of the international distributors. We weren't part of the company. We were the international distributor. So that's how we started. So it's been quite an interesting road where we started out in portable, and we gradually, gone into other areas, and we do, infrastructure. We do shows, we build Indaba, we build, that's mining Indaba, and obviously there are lots of Indabas out there. Mining Indaba, and we are Africa, we do other work in a lot of other exhibitions out there. So, and we also build individual stands, and we also do activation. So we do Wine to Wales, a big cycling race, we do the back-end branding of that. So our offering is very varied. From a roller banner brochure holder to some other stuff, the bigger stuff.
Now, how has COVID impacted your company currently? I mean, with all of these exhibitions that you're involved in, I'm sure it must have you've probably come to a standstill right now.
Yeah, so I think, obviously for all of us, it's really, very hectic. And I think there's a bit of glimmer of hope. We have been involved in 1 or 2 hospital projects, not that the projects have come on stream yet, but temporary hospital projects, and providing temporary infrastructure. And that will, that's another offering which we involved in. So that's a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel, but it's been very much a switch off. And obviously from the president's announcement about large meetings and things like that was a big switch. I was fortunate to be at Euroshop 2 weeks before that. We were exhibiting. We were exhibiting to the worldwide platform, and I could see indications that things were really heading for a big shutdown. So I think in a way it gave me a little bit of extra time to think a bit, but like anything, one's never prepared. You're not prepared for this. You might think in your head, and when it happens, it wasn't like the shock had already happened for me. I came back pretty sober after, not sober. I was sobered by the European experience because I could see the numbers were way down. There weren't any Chinese visitors there. There weren't any people from Asia. There was a lot of empty spaces at Euroshop, which I've never seen before in the
Really?
25 years.
Wow. And in terms of the business running itself, what changes have you had to make? Have you had to make any drastic changes as yet?
Okay, so I think also, and obviously we a medium-sized business, but we were at one time a small business. So and it's like a parent. As a parent, you always were a child or you were a teenager. So when your teenager behaves badly, there's one side of you thinking, no, don't do this. And on the other side, you think, gee whiz, I was there once before and I know what this is about. So people often think, oh, medium-sized business, you're in another space. We all in this together, and we all were part of something else before. So I think I have been quite encouraged that government has extended the avenue not just to small businesses, where they mentioned the other night that the president that it's 300 million turnover. So I think that's been a positive. So I think for us as a company, how we've managed. We've been very, when it happened, we told our staff, we paid them a percentage for March month. And then we went on this TER scheme, the UIF scheme, which we've applied. And I think everybody else has done that, or hopefully done that. We've also, there are one or two businesses that we involved in where we were smaller businesses, which we applied for some funding from the bank, and that was for employees. So we've been quite proactive in terms of that. I think our biggest thing that we've done is we've really tried to slow down our expenses. So there's a lot of fixed expenses in any company, and there's a lot of debit orders that you sign which you forget about. And last week I suddenly saw an invoice from Shutterstock because we buy graphics, on a retainer basis because we use so much. Then I had to cancel it, and they were very good about cancelling it. And then we obviously use bandwidth at different premises that we have. And I then engage with them. So I think the big thing was communicating with staff. I'm communicating with them all the time, open communication, and sometimes telling them bad news. And people would rather have the bad news than you saying, oh, we're going to pay you, and then don't get paid. So I think for us, we've communicated with the staff. We've been very clear. I've had to communicate things a couple of times on certain areas in terms of our business. So communication is essential. Cutting expenditure, there's quite a lot of long-term expenditure. And then I think asking landlords, suppliers and stuff for moratoriums. And we've been very, people have been quite understanding. Not everybody, but they've been quite understanding. And one mustn't be ashamed about this. It's not your fault. As a business owner, this is not your fault. Don't think it's your fault. And for the staff, they might be angry with you because they've got to be angry with somebody. So who's they going to be angry with? But it's not your doing. You've run a responsible business, or you've looked after your business and you've looked after your staff, and it's not your fault. And it's hard not to internalize it because we all feel that we're making a difference and that we're involved with our people, but there's nothing we can do. It's out of our hands, this whole thing.
Absolutely. Now, I know you spoke about those are three key things, and I think that's really, really good advice. The communication with the staff, I think, is absolutely essential, because those are people that you worked very hard to get and to keep, and they are people that you rely on, and when you come back online, you're going to need those people. So I agree, absolutely, that is so essential. And very often as business owners, we can get carried away with trying to fix and cut expenses and doing all these other things in the background, but we forget about communicating that with our staff, that we are
absolutely
working.
So just to add on to that, Projeni, so a lot of our staff don't have computers because they're in the field. So they're team leaders and they're working in the field. So our staff computer ratio is 1 in 2 people have computers. But we have a lot of people that don't have computers, but they've all got phones. And I think one of the key things as well, we created WhatsApp groups. So I've got a communication, I send mails out through our email, but then I've also got a communication channel on WhatsApp where I send our communication, like our representatives, and then they relay the message. So I think it's also important that one realizes that not everybody has communication through a computer, but through a phone everybody does have. We've also made sure that we've paid our communication suppliers. So those with the bandwidth, with the Vodacoms or the MTNs, the Cell Cs of the world, we've made sure that we've kept those channels open. And where people are struggling with bandwidth and things like that, we've actually stepped in as a company to make sure. One, it's a very lonely experience for everybody. And, you know, I can't take that away, but I can make it a little bit easier.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I like the idea you spoke about in terms of speaking to your landlords and speaking to people that you have debit orders with and making those arrangements, because like you're saying, they understand it's not something that they're not aware of. And if you don't ask, you'll never know, right? You know, and try and making those kind of arrangements. Now, you spoke about staff and you spoke about internal stuff. What are you doing with regards to the rest of your stakeholders in terms of your clients and other suppliers that you might work with in the industry? How are you communicating with them?
Yeah, so I think if with clients, we've obviously we've come up with a brochure. So we came up with a health services brochure, infrastructure brochure quite soon into this process. And we've circulated that brochure. And obviously there's not a huge take up because everybody's in lockdown, but hopefully people see that infrastructure and that offering we have. So we've come up with a product to manage the situation we're in at the moment. So for instance, one of those Perspex screens. Now I know there's a lot of Perspex screens out, but what happens, we sell roller banners, we just sell display products. So we've offered that as an offering. So I think that's how we're managing our customers and offering service to them. If any customers want design, we open. We're not saying we closed. We're here, we can give you design. We're not saying we'll wait till whatever. So I think it's important that we've also got phones that are forwarded to staff. So if you phone our offices, someone will answer the phone. And I think that's important. So that's from a staff point of view. In terms of suppliers, I've done a correspondence end of last month in terms of where we are. And I'm going to send another one out this month. And I think from supplier point of view, for me, the big thing is to see what actually happens with government support of where we are. So it's quite difficult to commit too much at this stage because it's very uncertain about. We know there's a virus, we know that it's going to grow, but we don't know how. There's a lot of uncertainty, so it's quite difficult. But I think at least for me, it's rather somebody says, "Hi, I'm here," than be totally quiet and not address it. So I've always been one on communicating, sometimes to my detriment, but for me, it's been important.
Yes, because I think your suppliers, your clients that have used you for so many years, you have a relationship with them.
Yes.
And everybody's going to be curious about, whether your business will survive or not. And they're going through the same things as their own businesses. But keeping that door open, I think, is really important so that they know that you're putting procedures in place and you're doing everything possible to ensure the health of your company and to ensure that you come out of this strong and that you'll still be there for them when they need you.
Yeah. So I think it's very much, and it's like we were chatting a little bit earlier. We as an industry are the last ones that are going to come online. And I know it's very hard for people to hear that. And I even think that domestic tourism will come online before us, long before, because it can be controlled. So the trade, and there are ways to mitigate certain elements of trade shows and make them healthier. But it's going to be a long road, and it's going to be an uncertain road, and there's going to be a lot of experimenting. and we're in a different environment where people are going to have shows and they're going to succeed, and some shows won't succeed, and conferences, well, maybe conferences are easier to manage because you know who the individual people attending are. It's a different kind of audience. But I think that we're in it for a long road, and people need to it's like I asked for a moratorium from the banks, and I see they came back with 2 months. That's not going to help us. This is a long road. We need to. It's till end of this year. One's got to see this out to the end of this year. So I think it's a long term. When it comes back, I think it's going to come back big, because there's a lot of shows that have been pushed out to next year. There's also been a lot of conferences that have been pushed out next year. I also know that there's nothing more powerful than face-to-face. It's very effective face-to-face, and I think we realize that. I mean, the challenges we have with IT, the challenges of not having a physical connection, there are elements that it is better, but most of the time it's harder. It makes it tougher.
Yeah, so exactly where I wanted to take you now is in terms of everybody's talking and trying to think about digitization. How do we take our exhibitions and make them digital, and how do we take our conferences and make them digital? But then, do you think we still stand the risk of removing face-to-face altogether by doing that?
Yeah, so that's quite interesting. And it's not the first time I've seen people talking about digital exhibitions. And this has been around and it's been tried before. For me, a website and Google, whichever search engine you're using, that's a digital exhibition, because I go there and I'm interested in lampshades, and then I just search there and I get a million suppliers and I can go onto their websites. It's the same as going onto a stand, but it's not the same. And digital, I don't think it's going to, I think that there will be more digitalization. I think that there'll be certain elements where their conferencing, maybe that people won't have a local conference, but they only have an international conference. But I do see that face-to-face is still very strong, very powerful, very good. We just exhibited now at Euroshop in Germany for 5 days. And I just realized after that, I connected with people in another way, whereas if I just had a telecon with them or an email, it wasn't the same.
Absolutely. I think as human beings, there's an inherent quality of the need to touch and feel and have that hand experience. It's all about, it's a reason why you'd prefer to go to a live concert instead of listening to it, on your device at home.
Very true.
It's that total full body immersion, that whole experience that you can never take away. So maybe digitization might become a complementary to exhibitions, that could complement it in some way. But I'm sure you agree. I don't think it'll take it away altogether.
Yeah, it's not. It will complement it, and there are certain things. And I saw now when I was at Euroshop, there were certain things that had changed in terms of using more digitization and using more technology. But there's nothing to replace face-to-face engagement and the immersive experience of exhibitions. Right now we're talking. You just seeing this room here. And I could put a nice backdrop behind, but there's nothing dynamic about it. You're just seeing me. Whereas if I go to an exhibition stand, I see the other staff, I see the product that they're promoting, I see the energy of the company, and that gives me an idea whether I want to do business or not with them, or is this for me? So it's very powerful medium and very good decision making. We've made some great decisions as a company by visiting exhibitions.
Yes, that too.
I mean, I'll give you an example. We built a printer recently, 2 months ago, and I went to the print show to go and see it. And I saw 6 or 7 suppliers, and after that show, I knew which machine I was going to buy. We were debating for 9 months before that of which printer to buy. 9 months of back and forth and, clutter. And just going there, we could make that decision.
Yes.
So it was very efficient.
Yeah, that's the difference, I suppose. That's a difference. I mean, when you're online, you're bombarded with so many options. But you don't get to see the people behind them. And that is crucial to that signing of that deal, knowing
Yeah.
this after service, knowing this, the kind of company that you're dealing with, what is their
Exactly.
ethos, what is their values, what's the
Exactly.
long-term
Exactly.
relationship that you're going to have, and that
Exactly.
you can't get online.
Exactly. Exactly.
Um,
And it's
so,
like search engine optimization. The
yes,
that the thing that comes up first on the internet when you're
yeah,
searching for something is somebody who's paid a lot of money for search engine optimization.
that's it.
Where is that the reason why you want to engage with it?
That's true. Yeah, those are the questions we have to ask, and you're going to have to be very analytical in terms of when you're searching for things. You really have to go much further than just look at the specifics of the product. You have to dig
Exactly.
a lot deeper. So there's a lot. The work is a lot more, I suppose, as well.
Yeah.
Justin, to round up, what advice do you have for other suppliers in the industry and for the industry as a whole? I'm not asking. I'm not asking you to predict. I don't think any of us can predict right now. We'll wait. It's a wait and see approach to see 1 week at a time. But at this point in time, what advice could you possibly give other suppliers in the industry to get them through this time?
Yeah, I think the advice I have is there have been bad times before and things came back.
Mm-hmm.
This is obviously a far worse situation, but things will come back. I think the big thing for suppliers in this industry is to actually hang in, cut those expenses, communicate the process, but hang in because the industry will come back. It will come back. And it's like anything, it's not, there are certain other sectors where it might not come back in the same way. And maybe our sector won't come back in the same way, but it will definitely, there will be business and the sun will shine. The sun will shine. There will be a sunrise. There'll be a sunrise tomorrow. Things will carry on.
Absolutely. Do you think there's an opportunity for collaboration during this time among suppliers?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, one of the things is if you have money, it's a great time to buy businesses.
Yeah.
So if I had a fairy godmother, which I don't have, wish I did, it's interesting you mention this. There are one or two businesses that I've thought out there, suppliers, that I'd love to buy, but I don't have a fairy godmother, and it's where it's at. But there are times for collaboration, and there are times for industry, coming together and working together in a better way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, you might not have a fairy godmother, but there might be other ways to collaborate, to join forces. You never know what can come of it, because not everybody has that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow right now to do all of that, but maybe we can explore other ways. And that's going to be interesting to see what comes out of this at the end.
Yes, agreed.
So thank you very much. We really appreciate having you on board with us to have this discussion. It's been extremely helpful, and I'm sure everybody that is going to be listening to this is also going to find it extremely beneficial. It's wonderful to know that we're not alone. We're all in this together. So really, really appreciate it. Stay safe, stay strong, stay home. Hey?
Thank you, Projeni. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Absolute pleasure. That was Justin Hawes from Scan Display, and we hope you all have a listen and get some awesome information and support and advice that will help you go forward. Thank you, Justin.
Thanks, Projeni.